Guys, so this is going to be a really controversial subject, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be unsure of what they think about this, to maybe not even agreeing with it, but I think this is much better than having a fucking military. So let me explain what I'm talking about. So if I want to say, people, that I highly respect the people who go in the military, you know, put their lives on the line and do all this and that to protect us and their countries. Like, that is honorable and the most heroic shit that I've ever known. Like, so people who do that are the bravest motherfuckers. So first of all, I want to say kudos to any one of you putting your life on the line, defending people like me and everybody else in, you know, different countries. Like, you guys are OGs. We wouldn't be here without you guys, so thank you so much for, you know, for your service and all that good shit. You guys are the absolute best, and, you know, we fucking love you guys. Well, having said that, I have to admit to you guys, I don't trust the government, or I don't trust the military at all. Because you have to remember, the military is a branch of the government. The government controls the military. Just like you can't trust the government, you really just can't trust the military. That's my opinion. I'm not saying you can't trust individuals in the military, because a lot of them are just good people going in to serve their country. But I'm just saying the militaries as a whole, you can't trust them because the governments own them. And really, at the end of the day, I do think having, you know, armed militaries and shit causes more conflict, more so than it actually benefits us and shit like that. So I have another proposition that's actually better, an alternative compared to fucking government, that I think would actually work better than our own fucking governments, or our own fucking militaries, I should say. Instead of having armed forces and militaries and all that and sending them all across the world to defend us and other fucking countries, right? Wouldn't it make more sense to require every citizen in every country to be trained in shooting and guns, have knowledge in guns, trained in shooting, how to defend themselves and all this and that? Wouldn't it make more sense to arm your country, you know, with, I'm not saying that everyone needs to be armed, but it would make sense that everyone has to be required in learning how to shoot, having knowledge in guns and this and that, because I think it would make more sense for a country to defend itself with its own citizens defending itself than having a separate branch of government that gets sent all around the world and gets scattered to defend us, because now we're relying on just smaller groups of individuals to protect us rather than a larger group as a whole collective that would come together and defend its whole fucking country, if that makes any sense. In my opinion, I think we're showing more force, more power, and we're gonna look more unstoppable, you know what I'm saying, if the entire country as a whole is trained in how to shoot, how to defend themselves, and they all own guns and they're armed, right, to defend themselves, more so than having separate entities of military that just get scattered all around the world to defend other places around the world, right? Because now you have less and less groups of people defending you, versus if your whole entire country was just trained and armed, right, and defending, you know, and defending itself. I think it makes more sense for every citizen in every country to learn how to shoot, have knowledge on guns, and to probably be fucking armed. And instead of having a military, we just have a whole citizen group of citizens armed to the teeth, you know, trained. I'm not saying armed to the teeth, but our entire citizenship of everyone in every country just trained how to shoot guns, knowledgeable in guns. And honestly, they probably should just own guns, just so that they not only are they trained and they want to defend themselves, but now they're fucking ready, God forbid, invasions and all of this shit comes. And not only that, but now there's more people defending that specific country as a whole, versus if you had smaller groups of government and military that get scattered all around the world to defend us in other fucking places. Doesn't make any sense to rely on smaller groups of government and militaries to get separated and scattered around the world to defend other countries and places, where you could just arm and train and have every citizen in every individual country learn how to shoot, be knowledgeable in weapons. That way, every country as a whole collective, it's a bigger army and they can defend themselves as a whole, versus, you know, having to worry about smaller groups of entities and individuals and having to rely on them to defend you, because you can't rely on those small groups of individuals. But if your whole country was armed, you know, trained, and they're good people, right, but they're just armed, trained, and knowledgeable in guns, no one's gonna fuck with that country. No one's gonna cut a country and try to take it over, because the entire country is armed. The entire country knows how to defend itself. The entire country is knowledgeable in weapons. You know what I'm saying? No one's gonna come into a country like that and fuck with us. That's just how it is. About it, your militaries in every country, they get scattered, they get stationed around in different places around the fucking world, so you have less and less numbers of people defending each individual country, versus if you just had the entire country as a whole train how to shoot and they're all armed for only defending themselves, right? And they're all armed, they're all trained, and they're all knowledgeable in guns. No one's gonna come and fuck with a country where the entire country is armed, knowledgeable, and understands how to shoot, versus going into a country that's so divided and split on guns and shit. And you only have small groups of, militaries that are defending maybe your country, but they get stationed elsewhere too. It doesn't make any sense. Where the whole country as a whole is armed, trained, and knows how to shoot, no one's gonna come and fuck with us at that point. And I respect our militaries, and I respect the people going in and putting their lives on the line, but at the end of the day, it doesn't make any sense having these militaries more so than having the entire country armed, knowledgeable in shooting, trained in shooting. No one's gonna come and fuck with the entire country where every person in that country is armed, knowledgeable, knows how to fucking shoot. That's exactly how you keep away violence, terrorism. That's how you keep away these big conflicts, these big wars. No one's gonna fuck with us at that point. Every country should be like that. I feel like that's a better way to maintain more peace, understanding, and all of that, because no one's gonna want to go fuck with a highly trained, highly dangerous country. Not dangerous country, but highly trained and highly knowledgeable country that knows how to defend itself. God forbid some shit does fucking happen. I think that's way more of a better way to deflect conflict versus just having, military groups that get scattered all around the world that are controlled by the government, which is a really bad entity as a fucking whole anyway. And you're the military, the Air Force, all these groups, they're always being scattered all around the world. So when you think about it, there's less and less people defending, each country. Whereas if every country was just highly armed and everybody in that country was armed, knowledgeable, and trained, everyone now has guns versus relying on a small groups of military. You're depending on these small groups to defend you versus the whole entire country, including yourself, depending on yourself and your friends and family to do it. That means something more so than depending on strangers who know nothing about you and you know nothing about to defend you. You know what I'm saying? You can't trust that shit. And they're in smaller groups of people where the whole country is armed, trained, and knowledge, but in a good way. That would deflect conflict, and there'd be so much less likely to have conflicts and problems and violence and crimes and all this good shit. I think that's just a stepping stone in the right direction. But I want to know what you guys think. Am I crazy for saying this shit? Or do you guys agree? Do you think this is a good stepping stone moving forward to stop terrorism, wars and all this shit going fucking forward? And I know this was a lot to say, and sometimes it's hard for me to put it out in words sometimes, but I think you guys understand exactly what I'm trying to say. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Am I crazy? Am I stepping too far? Or am I right? And this is exactly what we need going forward to do all this shit. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I truly believe this is what we need to do going forward as a stepping stone to really, to stop terrorism, wars and all this other conflict, violence, crimes, like all this other shit. I think this is a stepping stone in the right direction. But it does sound fucking radical, of course, but I don't think it is. I think it's exactly what's needed. But again, I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. So let me know what you guys think, you fuckers.